All right. We are live on Facebook and it's time. So let's start, Anand.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. This is episode 8, which happens to be the last one also in the series that Anand and I started about 8 weeks ago, the yin and yang of risk and resilience. And today we would like to talk about career opportunities in risk and resilience. Would this allow me to share my screen, please? I hope it's visible now. Great. So welcome once again to the yin and yang of risk and resilience. Skills and qualities of a risk and resilience practitioner so that we talk about career opportunities, possibilities in this or these domains. Your host, about 4 decades in the industry, about 2 decades in resilience. I've played multiple roles, dirtied my hands myself, trainer, author, practitioner, consultant, coach, mentor, guide, published 9 books so far in resilience. But I would like to request Anand to spend more time about him. Sorry. Over to you,
Thank you,
Anand.
Daman. Thank you, Daman. Very good morning to all of you uh, taking a look at this session today. I'm an ex-chief risk officer, an NYSE listed Indian company. And for the last 6 years, I've been into risk technologies through my startup, Utbata Technologies. Um, my risk experience spans multiple areas, primarily enterprise risk management. And then I have had practitioners experience on insurance, on SOX, on compliance, information security, and business continuity. So the ability to connect all of this and the operational risk areas that I've worked with, both the business and the operational teams, has enabled me to understand how all of the risks within the company could be connected with. Very happy to be co-hosting this with Daman today. The goal is really to help folks who are into considering career enhancements, um, changes, improvements, and the future of how risk careers might play out. Uh, to participate today and understand, how he could be of help to them, give them a sneak preview, and then continue to be available for them as and when. Daman,
Great. Thank you very much. And it's over to you, Anand, once again to continue with the discussions.
thanks,
Welcome.
Daman.
Good
So
morning,
let me
everyone.
just morning, Krishnan. Good to have you here today. How are you doing?
All good. Thank you.
Sure. So let me just set up a few contextual slides. I think the next 3 or 4 slides will help us ease into the understanding of how risk careers could be identified, how risk careers could be defined, and then navigated. And then I will hand it over to the able hands of them to continue. But let's just begin with a brief history of how risk management has evolved over certain decades. The initial seeds of risk management were probably sown through the probability theory. That's okay, Daman. It's fine. And when we used to say early risk management, a lot of this was linked to just insuring assets, right? So if there was a risk event, uh, we had insurance. We probably thought we were doing this right, at that point. And then slowly, as practitioners came into place, uh, major challenges were kind of experienced by companies, uh, especially in the healthcare sector, for example. It started becoming into what we would today call as traditional risk management, and these kind of started coming into place in the 90s. I think towards the end of 90 is where towards the end of 1990 is where the whole risk management started becoming a formal, I would say, corporate affair, right? Uh, Continue, Daman. And since then, we've had a slew of regulations both in the US as well as outside of US, that started giving some shape, contour, color to what risk management needs, so that companies across the globe could start looking at it in some standardized manner, benchmarking, exchanging views, uh, setting up some basic frameworks, etc., starting with the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in the US in 2000. Somewhere in 2004, they continued to evolve the first version of the COSO risk management or ERM framework, which used largely the internal controls approach, but built on it, giving slices and dices of the strategy, the operations, the geography, the business segments, etc. And later on, ISO 31000 came in 2009. And both COSO and ISO got a massive upgrade. I would say COSO got a massive upgrade in 2017. And ISO also has been reasonably modified 2018 to reflect the frameworks that we see, understand, use today. Right? So that's how risk management has evolved. Daman, if you could just. So basically, you can move forward. So basically, what risk manage that's okay. Risk management folks today are on several crossroads. If you take the Indian context in mind, the Indian context, we got SEBI, for example, that brought in risk management in a very formal, trust risk management expectations in a very formal way, more recently for the top 1,000 companies, by market cap. And along with it, it kind of also suggested a set of areas where companies should look at risks. We still don't have any guidance of what frameworks, approach, process, etc., to be followed. That is still left to companies to decide. But companies popularly use one of the two frameworks, especially if they are in the non-financial sector, the ISO or the COSO 2007. So that's where we are today. And what is next, only time will unfold. But we are observing quite a few things. So before we get down to discussing more about the future, I also want to talk a little about the world's first chief risk officer. And as I said, in the 90s, this became more a corporate affair. So this gentleman, James Lamb, whom I had the pleasure and honor of meeting in person too, he now lives around Boston, the US. And he was first identified or called out as a chief risk officer when he was working in GE Capital in 1990. So he has extensively worked in multiple firms before he is now continuing to be on the boards of several, companies in the US. And he's worked on a lot of books that have been widely acclaimed and published by Wiley. And he continues to be, an advocate for cybersecurity risk in the roles that he's playing in organizations. So if you want to get to a certain stature through the ERM route of risk management, then this is one person whom you can follow. Right? I've given an access to the website also that he has. So please feel free to look that up. Daman. So I'm just going to do a couple of recaps and then just get down to the context for today. The first recap is we all understand that, every organization is going to keep getting exposed to risks. There is going to be need for having risk management. If risk management isn't implemented or carried out in the way that works best for the organization. There is a fair chance that the ability for the company to continually make profits is going to be significantly challenged. And with risk mitigation, no doubt the P&L could be impacted a little because there is cost of mitigation. But at the end of the day, um, whether it is an investor or whether it is the company management themselves, they value the efforts and the results that are highly risk mitigated and can build in predictability in the way the results are uh, coming year after year. So there is definitely a lot of value in investing in mitigations, and these mitigations can happen because of the nature of the industry itself. We are all aware of what kind of challenges are currently being faced, let's say, by the airline industry, you know, or uh, by the infrastructure industry, etc. So they are very fundamental industry challenges that could be there. Or it could be external risks and disruptions that could impact organizations because of events happening not necessarily within the control of the company. In both cases, becomes very essential for us to be able to anticipate and manage those risks. And we've talked about this the past. Yaman, you can. So if that happens, then from a recap perspective, I had also suggested that there are primarily two roles that all of us as risk managers play. And this could happen in the context of enterprise risk management. This could also happen in the context of any other risk function that we have. Eventually, all the effort that we put in helps the organization do things. One, it mitigates the impact of the EPs, which basically means that if risk management wasn't carried out, your profitability and therefore your earnings per share would have been compromised. The other is to make sure that all the efforts that are put in and where the company stands today in respect of you know risk management or managing its risks well are something that is clarified through through your external reporting and regulatory compliances. Could be information that you share in your annual report. It could be information that you share with regulators, your customers, etc. So clarifying risks to your stakeholders and mitigating risks are primarily, I would say, two roles of any risk management strategy. Please continue. I'm also going to this. No, you can move forward. So the entire context for today's discussion, and we know what this means, right? And we talked about this a lot. So I'd really like to focus now on the right side of the presentation now. There are so many roles which can indirectly or directly work alongside risk, right? Each of them address one component of the risk or the other of the organizations. And these roles are actually several, right? Right from the core operational units, such as R&D, sales, etc., all the way up to any of these assurance functions, ERM, PCM, audit, legal and compliance, EHS, quality. All of these help organizations mitigate risks, right? And ensure that there is clarity within the organization and the organization is enabled to provide clarity outside too on what risks are basically, under getting addressed. So the goal today is to understand each of these can become full-blown professions for all of us today. So my area of passion, my area of, I would say, primary domain competency has been ERM for quite some time. Because of the fact that I had been in ERM, it was easy for me to connect with the rest of the assurance functions. Because at the end of the day, everything had to be aggregated at the top. So even though ERM happened to be a 10,000 feet function, uh, it was focused more on breadth, ensuring that the depths were addressed by the respective operating teams as well as some of the assurance functions. The focus was to ensure that nothing was missed out and there are no surprises. So in that role, I definitely had the opportunity to engage with each one of these functions that you might have seen in my working life as a corporate risk practitioner. And therefore, it becomes very interesting to note that different people who've chosen these careers either out of choice or out of no choice, whichever way that you look at, have definitely evolved their careers over time. And each of these disciplines are so rich in themselves that they can be full-time career choices. Right? So it's good to kind of step back, reflect, and see both in terms of what opportunities are ahead for all of us, as well as what skill sets we currently have and we want to bring to the table to understand how we want to think about our careers, whether we are just beginning our careers in the risk domains, or we are intermediate, or we are senior. Right? In all the three cases, I think uh, the kind of interventions, the kind of understanding of where what is where and what more can be done by each of us. I think that kind of changes. So, very happy to extend this conversation during the later half of the session. Daman, please go. So, with all of this, what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about, therefore, how do all of these functions actually operate together, right? And this is actually the segue or the context for us to also understand that how do we want to therefore build skills and build careers within the so-called GRC functions within ourselves. But if you look at this particular diagram, right, this typically depicts any organization's ecosystem. Right at the bottom, you have the company operations, and these are your core operations. So these could be your R&D, manufacturing, sales, purchases, right? All of the basic functions. And from there started this whole thought process, over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 decades. This concept of lines of defense have started coming in, and they've actually reached a stage where they've also matured, and then people are openly challenging whether these lines of defense actually exist in reality, or they are all blurred in organizations, and whether there's really a value for such lines of defense. Nevertheless, from a org structure perspective, this still continues to be in smaller, big ways uh, eh, carried out by organizations. So when I look at the first line of defense, what I'm trying to understand here is it's the same sales team, it's the same manufacturing team, it's the same R&D teams, but they are wearing the hat of an operational risk manager and trying to help the organization identify in their core operations what kind of risks actually exist. These could be at a very, very process level. Say, for example, if I'm looking at supply chain or purchasing, it could be all the way right up to right from, how do we identify our vendors? How do we onboard our vendors? How do we make sure that the vendor details in our systems are correctly captured? How do we ensure that in any of the processes, starting from onboarding vendors all the way up to, say, paying the vendors through the entire purchase cycle, there are no elements of fraud, for example, that is, possible, right? So there are several, I would say, dozens and dozens of, I would say, what could go wrongs, as it is typically called, as well as controls, if I could use that word, right? Which could exist at the primary line of defense. And these controls could be obviously manual as well as automated, preventive as well as detective. So that's the first line of defense. And then the second line of defense here is typically all of us. The functions that were depicted on the earlier page, starting from ERM to DCM to internal audit to compliance to a lot of them. So all of those functions who actually work very closely with the first line of defense as well as the company operations end up becoming called as the second line of defense. And the expectation is that anything that is missed out from the first line of defense ends up getting captured by the second line of defense or caught by the second line of defense, primarily focusing on breadth here rather than depth, right? So the depth part is already presumed to be embedded within the operations. But if it isn't, then systems are to be created. But otherwise, it's the second line of defense that actually gets a very, very fair view of where the risks lie in each of the core risk areas in any company. And the third line of defense, which typically today, the lines, like I said, are blurring between the first, second, and third lines. But by statutory, demand or by regulatory expectation, you definitely need to have an independent assurance within the organization through a separate internal audit department or a process. And the third line of defense is usually called the last man standing, right? And when we say the last man standing, it means that nothing ideally should have got missed out, from anywhere in the company. Who should have been caught either by the first, second, or company operations or anywhere else, and picked up through the audit process, so that the complete assurance cycle from a management perspective is offered, right? And then you have external audit that all of us understand, right? Now, when you look at the ecosystems, therefore, you have the company ecosystem is called the management ecosystem, and that's entirely what the company does for itself, the organization does for itself. And then there is the regulatory ecosystem, which is basically the ecosystem that allows the company to be presented as a fair, transparent, ethical, fairly risk managed organization to the regulators, to external stakeholders. And usually this task is carried out by external auditors. Now, here the context is financial audit, but then it could be any, audit that is carried out by external auditors and communicated externally. It could be assurance reports, etc. which is published. And finally, with the board who, oversees obviously what happens within the company, but they are primarily uh, a I would say, an extended arm of the shareholders, and therefore they participate in what we call as the fiduciary responsibilities. And therefore, the ecosystem that covers all of this put together would be the fiduciary ecosystem. There is a reason why this is put up this way. Daman, if you can just click once again. And this is where the tensions start coming when we start looking at risk roles, right? So if I look at expectations, you look at any company operations in the traditional world, they are hired to either purchase or carry out an R&D or manufacture or sell, right? That's the primary role of all of these functions. Right? But still, when it comes to day-to-day affairs, there is a fair degree of complexity. Complexity could come because of the nature of the process itself, or complexity can come because we as risk professionals insist that certain things are to be done in a certain way, and that kind of builds in complexity. And along with that, you also have risks, and risks are both operational, the nature of the way the operations are, as well as externally generated, as we talked about, right? But when we look at the first line of defense, and the first line of defense here are those HODs, for example, right? And the HODs essentially are ensuring as much as possible that the company operations are smoothly run. But at the same time, they become the vector, or they become the single point of contact for any audit, whether it is internal, whether it is external, whether it is management driven, whether it is, related to the second or the third line of defense. And for them, the biggest challenge, right, the biggest tension is audit fatigue, right? So today, I may walk in as a chief risk officer and spend some time with the HOD. Tomorrow, Daman may walk in as a BCM head and spend some time with the same HOD. Later on, XYZ, who's the head of compliance in the same organization, will walk in and spend some time with the HOD. So over a period of time, it's the same HOD, the same units, the same locations, but they are experiencing multitude of, let us say, reviews, audits, assessments, etc. And it generates tremendous fatigue, right? And their goal or their expectation is, can something be done to minimize, my audit fatigue? And because of such, opportunities that exist, company management systems from a risk management assurance systems have also started evolving in many ways. And that's a conversation for another day. When it comes to the second line of defense, folks like you and me, I think it is critical for us to understand, one, the breadth. Definitely, there cannot be an opportunity for the organization to have missed out on some key element of risk, right? Or action that was required to manage the risk. But at the same time, it's very important not to lose focus, right? And that's where a lot of times what happens is you are always switching between making sure that nothing is missed out to making sure that there is meaningful progress by working on the top 10, top 20, top 15, top 3 kind of challenges, right? So that's typically how the life of a second line of defense looks like. Third line of defense, all of us understand, and I said they're the last man standing. They're that's like the last safety net that possibly exists within the company management system. Uh, and there's a lot of responsibility, both from a regulatory perspective as well as from an expectation management perspective that is thrust on them. And the uh, the challenge that they usually have is that they have to marry off the ability to be independent. They still have to work independently, which means that they have to be able to carry out their checks and balances as well as depend on the output of any of the work that happens until here, the operations, the first line of defense or the second line of defense in an independent manner, and be able to directly communicate to the respective stakeholders, whether they are the board or anyone else that may be coming later on. And therefore, their ability to collaborate formally with all of the other functions is very, very minimal because they have to maintain their independence, right? Now, when it comes to company management, their biggest challenge is that they're there for a mission. They're there for their goals and for their organizational goals, growth, strategy, etc. And therefore, for them, the biggest challenge is to be able to balance both, right? So business cannot come at the cost of risk or compliance. Risk management cannot feed business, and they have to be able to provide a balanced trade-off between both. And this is a very dynamic, real-time, uh, action. Different companies have different appetites for risk. You have seen companies who are extremely conservative. You have companies who are extremely risk-taking. And a lot of these elements kind of start becoming visible when we start, understanding how companies are managing their risks. And nevertheless, there is always going to be risk management, balancing risk uh, uh, or governance. If I have to use a bigger word for it, as compared to say performance, and both of them kind of coexist in their lives. And finally, from the point of view of the board, there are two or three primary concerns that they would have. One is they want to ensure that nothing misses between the first, second, and third line of defense. The second is they want to ensure that shareholder value creation happens appropriately without the risk of value erosion, and also play the role of the responsibilities connected with the fiduciary and the regulatory elements, right? So if there is significant violation of regulations that is going on within a company, and the company is not talking about it, it becomes the fiduciary responsibility of the board to actually update the regulators or update the necessary stakeholders. So some of these things start putting a lot of pressure on boards, and boards are also very, very careful about the companies they choose to work with, etc. At the same time, companies also want to choose their boards carefully because they want board members with the right experience to guide them, both on the value creation as well as on the value preservation side, right? So that's basically how the entire ecosystem kind of works. And connecting the previous slide to this slide, I think whatever roles each of us play, right? There is some place that is available for each of us anyway. And there are certain roles which are extremely externally facing. There are certain roles which are extremely internally facing. Depending on the personality of who we are, what our core competency or skill areas are, right? As well as learning understanding what is changing in this overall ecosystem or in the way the businesses are being run today becomes a very important prerequisite for us to start thinking about careers and thinking about this, right? It's a very it, it it's not a very easy thing to do, but I think it's extremely important that certain tangibles are definitely required in place, your functional competencies, etc. But certain intangibles basically develop over a period of time and may require specific grooming and coaching, right? So all of this is available for each of us to think about. But in terms of context, I think the ecosystem view can provide a view of where you would like to park yourself at, right? So do you want to be at the operating or first line of defense space, or do you want to be at the second or third line of defense, right? And also what domain you want to typically excel in, right? Or do you want to be a generalist? Do you want to be a specialist? Now, these within the risk functions itself, I'm not talking, right? So these are very useful things to keep at the background while you start evaluating your careers. So with this, Raman, thank you for this. I will hand over this back to you. And if there are any questions, very happy to take it at the end. Please carry on.
Thank you very much, Alan, for setting up the context for today, starting from risk, taking to BCM, and then giving a very good perspective of this first, second, third line of defenses that we have in the organizations. While I move into the second portion of resilience, job opportunities, and skills required for a practitioner in these fields, I would like to remind that today's episode will be incomplete without the first 7 episodes. So this is a natural progression. This is how we had designed this series. Anyone who wants to enjoy today's session must watch the earlier recordings also. Why do I say that? Because we dedicated or devoted one full episode to the journey from risk to resilience or organizational resilience. That needs to be understood before we go deep into today's discussions. But saving time, I'm not repeating all that. Just quickly, that it's not either or, it's and. Risk, enterprise risk management, GRC, BCM, operational resilience, operational excellence, and ultimately organizational resilience. That's the natural progression according to me. Repeatedly, it's not either or, it's and. I have some slides and I'll talk based on those slides. Sorry about that. So these skills that I'm displaying now may appear to be valid for any other role also. But specifically, we have picked up these for risk and resilience. That is the focus of our discussions. And we see that these fall into 3 categories: technical skills, interpersonal and communication skills, and management and leadership skills. And there is no way out. This is what we would like to stress upon. I cannot say I have one of these. I'm very good. I need to be good at other 2 also if I want to be a good, great practitioner in these fields. This practitioner can be an implementer, auditor, trainer, assessor, ultimate user, anyone. So we are not saying a consultant's skills or a consultant job. We are saying any skill practitioner. In technical skills long list, we see quickly, I'll just read these. Risk management and resilience for the topic. These 2 are the most important one, no doubt about it. Business case management, Excel modeling, data analysis, business analytics, research, budgeting, planning, asset management, technological proficiency, market analysis, and project management. I cannot say I know resilience very well. I know risk very well, but I'm not so good at budgeting or project management, for example. All these need to be learned by me. Looking at interpersonal and communication skills, engaged design, persuasion, client management, storytelling, communication, and all types of communication. Understanding human behavior, emotional intelligence, these two may go hand in hand, understanding human behavior and emotional intelligence, empathy, and interpersonal. And we look at management and leadership skills, strategic thinking, leadership, organizational, teamwork, business development. And once again, I cannot say I'm a consultant, I don't do or I don't know, I do not understand business development. Collaborative problem solving, attention to detail, and productivity. It's a long list, understood. No one perhaps can have all equally well, but I need to polish. I need to possess mix of these, and slowly I need to improve upon. We can say that PDCA cycle of continual improvement needs to be applied here by all of us if we want to be a practitioner in this field. Step one, I am saying, is to understand these skills. I'm just going to read a little bit about some of these that I showed displayed in the previous slide. Risk management and resilience are fundamental skills for anyone in this role. The role I'm saying is practitioner risk and resilience. Emphasizing the ability to identify, assess, and managing risks, as well as promote resilience within an organization. Business case management, to understand how to build and present a business case. This is very important in today's world. Is crucial for implementing risk and resilience strategies effectively. Engagement design is a skill that involves creating effective strategies to engage stakeholders in risk and resilience initiatives. The stakeholder engagement is a big challenge or is a big opportunity to win the hearts. Storytelling and persuasion, very good skills, very important skills. Communicating the importance of risk management and resilience often requires persuasive storytelling to convey complex concepts. In Excel modeling and data analysis, to have proficiency in data analysis and modeling, particularly in tools like Excel, is valuable for analyzing risks and managing informed decisions. While I have mentioned Excel, there could be many dedicated tools for this. I do not mind someone paying attention to those or working on those. Client management and communication is important. Building and maintaining relationships with clients is essential for understanding their needs and delivering effective solutions. When it comes to BCM and resilience, I make two statements. HRM, human resources management, and CRM, customer relationship management, go hand in hand with BCM and resilience. In your good times, take care of your employees so that they stay with you committed during your bad times. In your good times, take care of your customers so that they remain reasonable with you during your bad times. Strategic thinking and planning is important. The ability to think strategically and develop long-term plans for risk mitigation and resilience enhancement. To understand human behavior and emotional intelligence, insight into human behavior and emotional intelligence can inform risk strategies and enhance organizational resilience. A relatively new concept, design thinking, which says go deep into the user's mind, step into the user's shoes. Leadership and teamwork is important. Leading teams and collaborating effectively are crucial for implementing risk and resilience measures across the organization. And business analytics and market analysis, utilizing business analytics and market insights to inform risk management strategies. Research is important in these fields. What is happening around? What is coming up? Horizon scanning easily understood in a risk management world. Equally important in BCM and resilience. Conducting thorough research to stay informed about emerging risks and best practices in resilience. Managing budgets and overseeing projects related to risk and resilience initiatives is important. So I must possess that skill also, or those skills as well. Organizing and coordinating efforts within the organization and working well with others. Especially because that long list of skills, no one may be able to have all. So dependency on others, or it's a good practice. Use others' skills, others' strengths, work with them. So that cohesion comes into picture. Teamwork comes into picture. Leveraging technology for risk assessment, data management, and communication. A lot has been happening in the world. We need to be aware of that, and we need to be capable of using it quickly. The buzzword today, if you want to call it buzzword, I would say this is a need of the hour, the use of AI adoption in the whole business, but specifically within risk and resilience also. We need to be aware of technology and capable of using it to the best, positively, not negatively. Then capability to pay attention to details and empathy is important. Paying attention to details in the risk assessments and demonstrating empathy towards stakeholders affected by risks. Collaborative problem solving, this teamwork portion, working together collaboratively to solve complex problems related to risk and resilience, or creating new solutions in risk and resilience. Productivity and time management. There's a lot to be done in the world. There are only 24 hours in a day for anyone. So we need to be looking at our productivity, efficiency, and quality also. I'm taking help of this report by World Economic Forum, Future of Jobs reports of last year. Very important asset, freely available to all. And we can see top 10 fastest growing jobs. It says AI and machine learning specialist, sustainability specialist, and risk BCM resilience may start coming into picture indirectly the moment sustainability comes into place. Business intelligence analysts, we said a little bit about that. Information security, part of risk resilience. Fintech engineers, data analysts and scientists, robotics engineers, big data specialists, agricultural equipment operators, and digital transformation specialists. On the right-hand side, the report shows top 10 fastest declining jobs. That may appear to be a little disheartening. So listed here, you can stop the recording and go through this if you want. In the interest of time, I would like to move to the next one. Largest growth versus largest declining jobs. And again, my focus will be on left-hand side, agricultural equipment operators, heavy truck and bus drivers. This is global. So global scenario may be different from our local geographical, any one particular country's scenario, including India's scenario. Vocational education teachers, mechanics and machinery repairs, business development professionals, so BD, important for risk and resilience practitioners also. Building frame and related trade workers, university and higher education teachers. Electrotechnology engineers, sheet and structural metal workers, molders and welders, and special educational teachers. This is important slide for 2027. Top 10 skill priorities. Analytical thinking, match with our list. Creative thinking, AI and big data, I just touched upon that. Leadership and social influence, linked with, touched with, in line with our discussions, specifically number 5, resilience, flexibility, and agility. Curiosity and lifelong learning. Learning sharing is forever. No one is perfect in this world, whether individual or organization. I myself am a lifelong learner. Technology literacy, we said that also about risk and resilience practitioners to be capable of using technology rightly. And when we talked about productivity and efficiency and quality, there also technology will help us. Design and user experience, motivation and self-awareness, people-related skills, and empathy and active listening, once again, people-related skills. So at least 60-70% from World Economic Forum report also are in line with our discussion, our list. These skills required for 2027. We are in 24. The time is now, not in 27 to gain these skills. And the report also says, it's a long report. There's a lot in the report. Suggestion is go through that, please. Freely available to download. Reskilling will be required. And that's why, Anand and I thought it will be good to talk while concluding the series about opportunities, careers, skills in risk and resilience. Another good report, much longer, bigger report, again available to be downloaded freely, is from International Labor Organization, India Employment Report of 2024. Go through this. My impression is that it may not be easily usable, directly usable by professionals or practitioners. It's maybe is meant for the policymakers, but it's a good report, very detailed report. Also, a point that focuses on youth employment. While talking of these steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll go up to 4. It's also for this practitioner to be aware of the common frameworks, management framework or consulting frameworks. I'm just listing 3 here. There may be many. Porter's 5 forces, SWOT analysis. We'll take some examples also based on this, and 3 C's framework. This is next step. Having understood the skills required, you should attempt to find out your target company. So what I'm attempting to say is it has to be a planned journey. Find your target company, and run a SWOT analysis that will help you out of 3, 4, 5, 10 that you may have in your list to focus on 1 or 2. Very important, the disclaimer at the bottom. I'm not representing these companies. I have not taken any inputs from them. These are purely a sample SWOT analysis conducted based on my perceptions. So for EY, some strengths, global presence, diverse service lines, emphasis on innovation and technology. I'm not reading all, but a strength and assume a threat also, a stiff competition. If I pick up the second company, Bain and Company, now I'll focus on their opportunities, high impact strategic projects with a focus on transformative change. So I can match these with my skills or my wish. This is how this analysis is going to help me if I'm attempting to be in this line, in this domain. Entrepreneurial culture encourages ownership of projects. If I find I'm not that type of a person who likes ownership to be given to me, then maybe BNN company is not my target company. I'll look at quickly one weakness, limited service lines compared to EY, for example. So this helps us to then take decisions accordingly. SWOT analysis is a decision-making tool. Third company I picked up is McKinsey, looking at their strengths, global leadership, diverse industry exposure, and thought leadership, but that could be competitive recruitment. And the last company in this discussion I picked up is BCG, looking at the opportunities, opportunities to contribute to thought leadership. And once again, if I feel I'm not that person, then I drop this company from my list of target companies. This is how SWOT analysis is helping me or anyone else who wants to be in the risk and resilience domain. One weakness listed for BCG is intense competition and demanding work hours. Once again, if that's not my cup of tea, I may like to delete them from my list. And one of the list companies in the list could be Udbata Technologies also. You may like to do your own homework. You must actually, even for those four companies, because that was based on what I displayed was based on my perceptions. But I wouldn't mind if Anand would like to take a couple of minutes to then tell us what is or what are the USPs of Udbata's or how does Udbata stand with respect to SWOT. Over to you, Anand, for a few minutes.
Thanks, Daman. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting, topic for us to do. Um, so I'll be frank, we've not done a formal SWOT analysis for Udgata, but being the founder and being in this for the last 5 years, I do have a fair analysis of where our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats are. Right. Very clearly, we are we want to set up our own USP. We have our own USP. And our primary USP is that we approach our engagements with a practitioner's mindset. And that is something that is highly appreciated by all our clients. And what this basically means is that as the companies get larger and larger, and as the company's costs, therefore overheads keep going up more and more, they have to find their ways to scale and sustain profitably. And I'm not talking about consulting companies, right? So what happens is at the point in time when they are large, they've been there for multiple years, they're able to create their own IP, they're able to create their own knowledge, they're able to create their own uh, playbooks, if I could use that word, customers, right? And what happens is the answer to scale for a consulting kind of a setup is the existence of a very clear practice path or a playbook. And if you have a playbook, then you don't need to have a senior walking across and carrying out the tasks. But if you have a very high impact project where the stakes at the company end as well as let us say uh, the price of the consulting engagement is extremely high, you definitely need to have your best minds. So what happens is, in our case, we are able to go walk in with a blue ocean approach because most of us have been practitioners, or we definitely deploy people who are extremely experienced in this and work with the client to co-create whatever solutions are needed rather than walk there with a templatized approach and try to provide them with something that is still going to be better than what they have but may not be the most optimal given their current size, scale, maturity, etc. And I think that has been our biggest USPs. Our clients have always recommended us, and there has been more than 80% of success rates in terms of either repeat business or recommendations from our existing clients. Right? Every 4 out of 5 clients have either continued to do business with us or they have chosen to recommend us to others. And I think that would continue to be a strong point for quite some time because our primary focus is not consulting, our primary focus is product led consulting. And the product takes care of the best practices and all of those things by itself. And the practitioner's view makes sure that these best practices are applied in the experience. So that continues to remain our strength so far. And hopefully, we will continue to use the scale model along those ways. But when it comes to weaknesses, obviously, one of the biggest challenges is compared to those companies that are listed in the past or any major player, they are there for the last 100 years, right? So we've always had conversations with clients where they say, "What's the difference between Foodbeta and let's say a big four company?" And I said, "Give us another 96 years or 95 years, and we'll also be there, right?" So I think there is going to be some amount of the incumbency challenge There are people who are there who've been there for decades. They've built wonderful programs and processes. But at the end of the day, if the company is able to understand and on their own manage, the projects after the consultant walks away, I think that provides for a very different kind of recognition in industry, and that's what we will be able to do for quite some time until we build our own, uh, our own pedigree and vintage for ourselves, right? Threats very clearly, people that's everywhere. It's not unique to only our company. So people could walk into Udgata and walk out to a PwC. People could walk in from PwC, join a McKinsey, and that could continue. And I think we have to be prepared for that. What approach we are taking here is to make sure that the best teams are still hired, and we have very low expectations from, I would say, junior to mid-career people at least to join us. But for people who've been here for at least, let us say, 3 to 5 years, we know that they're there to stick on for a longer period. And the way that we manage this is through not just, fair compensation, not superior, but fair compensation, but coupled with meaningful participation in the success of the company through ESOPs, etc. So that's how we manage the challenge of, the threat of losing out to others. And opportunities are immense. Opportunities are immense for a very young company like us, especially since, we are in a country where the topic of risk management, governance, resilience, all of these are increasingly becoming, topics of significance and investments by companies. I think we have a very, very good future, being a very small, nimble, cost-effective, high-quality service provider, in India. So we see this as our primary strengths, challenges, opportunities, and weaknesses.
Great.
Definitely, we definitely have an understanding and experience of how to deal with these as we. So back to you, Daman. If there are any
Great. Thank
questions,
you.
very happy to take.
Thank you very much. And we may run a little over today compared to the 1 hour duration that we have set as target. Having done SWOT analysis, having for the companies, having found my target company, I need to do my own SWOT analysis also. So a budding risk and resilience practitioner would find this. This once again is a sample only out of that long list. Some of my strengths, some of my threats or for threats for me, my weaknesses or opportunities for me. We all understand that SO has to be increased, WT has to be reduced. And step 4 is just do it. If you are looking for risk and resilience domain, first step I'm saying, repeating, it has to be a planned journey, and it could be a little longer journey also because there's a lot to be done and there's a lot of competition out there. So draw a plan according to your SWOT. Learning and sharing is forever. I'm a lifelong learner myself. I said that earlier. So learn a lot, write a lot to prove that you are an expert. And to write a lot, you need to read a lot. So read a lot, study, write, speak, talk, train, attend trainings, start delivering trainings. Daman, I'm not a trainer. You are a trainer. You could train. I couldn't train. We can have knowledge sharing sessions and including this platform available to you to deliver a webinar for others. We will be happy to do that for you. So that could be kind of a training that you are sharing your knowledge and experience. Find a guide, mentor, or coach. Very important today. And especially when someone is attempting to step into either a new domain or expanding into this domain. I already am into this domain, either risk or resilience or risk and resilience, BCM. It is very important to have a guide, mentor, or coach, all of 3 of them if you can. And Anand and I are happy to help or will be happy to help. So it's four-step journey. I'm saying welcome to the exciting world of risk and resilience. Closing this discussion today, we had planned this yin and yang of risk and resilience, Anand and I, 8-part series. Today was the 8th one. So we have completed this. First one, we just talked about the introductory portion. In the second episode, second week, we talked about role of force majeure clause and BCM, followed by in session 3 or episode 3, week 3, AI implications on organizations' risk and resilience decisions. Week 4 was about the art of designing, developing, and delivering a resiliency test, which is an art, needs to be, can be learned and mastered. Followed by in week 5, episode 5, we talked about sustainability, BCM, and risk interconnectedness. Session 6 was about opportunities to integrate risk and BCM, and session 7 was fully devoted to organizational resilience. We also talked about, with the help of a demo, about a maturity model and assessment tool. And today, talking about navigation of careers in risk and resilience, opportunities, challenges, etc. This is where we would like to stop. As I said, requesting to extend the hour. If you have any questions, please feel free to switch on your cameras, unmute yourself, fire the questions. We are happy to help. Mohan and Krishnan, any questions, any suggestions, inputs?
No questions as such, but what I can, looking at the skills required slides, what I can think of is that the more of a specialist you think you are, the more of a generalist you need to be. Because even if you think that you are, you're making a career in resilience or risk or BCM, you need to know project management and so many other influencing and so many other things. I'm not very sure. Is there anything strictly called a specialist? I remember myself, uh, you know, uh, my second job was in project management in the construction industry way back from 2003. I did 2 years of that and decided that project management is not for me, and it's not my thing. And the next IT job I ended up in the information security. Project management is again what we were doing. So there are no there are I don't think there's you can't escape. You need to know a whole plethora of skills. There should be a
Yes.
I don't think that there was anything I could think about which was not in that slide, whether it is project management or influencing people or presentation skills or whatever else.
Yes. Yeah. And I agree with you because it's a long list. No one perhaps will be able to have all equally well.
Right.
But my intention should be, by chance we see 4 pictures here. So this is SWOT in front of us. Anand and you being, Mohan, please do not mind. If you clockwise, SWOT. Okay, Mohan becomes O. So Anand and Mohan needs to be made heavier, while Daman and Krishnan needs to be made lighter. Assuming project management, I'm not great. I find it's not my cup of tea, but it still not be weakness or threat. It should be an opportunity for me that I need to work a little more here. I should know this. This SWOT analysis is very important according to me. Even if I'm not attempting to change my career path, but where do I stand today to know that SWOT analysis, personal SWOT analysis is very important. And I'm repeating that even if it's not S, it should be O for me, but not W and T. That's the attempt we should have. So it seems no more questions coming up. Anand, then if you would like to give closing remarks, concluding remarks, and I'm saying on behalf of both of us to our audience, what's next? We'll come back to you soon. There's a lot. Concluding remarks from you, Anand.
Yeah, thanks, Naman. So I think the this discussion of today, what Krishnan said, is definitely reflective of not just certain skill sets which we think we don't require, but we end up needing it without a choice, right? More than the skill set, I would just say it's a role, right? It's a role that is in the organizational context. But to answer your question, Krishnan, just if I had to just extend this by a minute more, there are roles that you can determine for yourself in today's context. This might not have applied in maybe 5 years or earlier, where the role of an independent freelance expert, and I use the word expert with a lot of emphasis because nowadays everybody likes to call themselves experts, but the reality is they are not, right? If you really believe you're an expert, then you can definitely work as a freelance expert and cut away all of those other skills that you think you don't need, right? Because an expert is always sought after. An expert is someone always sought after, and an expert, assuming that you are at a fairly senior level, you can always have other people taking up this aspect of whatever you need to do, right? But when you're put in an organizational context, you don't have a choice influencing all of those skill sets that everybody, kind of, has to manage. I think that becomes very, very different. And therefore, you're right. The slice of the pie keeps getting larger and larger outside of your core competency areas. And that's where I think a lot of stress also gets built up. So, it's very difficult for someone to imagine this at the start of their careers. It is very easy for someone to realize this at their end of their careers. But somewhere in between, where most of us are, right? I think we have to use a combination of our whatever mass we have gathered over the years in terms of core competency, expertise, areas we like, and some, I would say, calculated way of easing out and building on those competencies that Daman said, right? We have to find smart ways to cut down on the W's and the T's, right, in some meaningful way. And if that requires a change in the role, so be it, right? Or organization or the style of working, so be it, right? So many people are cut out to be corporate folks. Many people are cut out to be consultants. Many people are cut out to be specialists as freelance experts. You can always look at what makes sense for you, right? Having said that, I think Daman, closing thoughts. Thank you again for this. So I think it's been a very exciting set of 8 sessions. At the start, we didn't imagine that what content will come in through these 8 sessions would be as detailed or as specific. Of course, we have the privilege of having recorded this. Some sessions were extremely good. Some sessions were fair, I would say. But all of this, like Daman said, has bits and pieces of our experiences sprinkled in. And for the future, because I think we kind of haven't answered that specifically. From my organization's perspective, I'm asking my colleagues to all be extremely well versed in 2 areas, whether or not they're building competencies in other areas. And this is cutting across the risk and tech functions because we are a tech products company, which is one is AI, right? So in the areas that you are operating in, you have to understand how AI is going to aid you, make you smarter, right? That's very important. And secondly, it's the understanding of sustainability and ESG. And the reason is because everything that the companies are doing today are driven by that one single agenda of ESG. That is again, coming into all of your stakeholders. This is one area where all stakeholders are collectively asking for it. The regulator is asking for it. The customer is asking for it. The investor is asking for it. Very, very rare areas where multiple stakeholders actually come together and ask for something. And therefore, it is an inevitable, opportunity or pressure point for most organizations. It's extremely important for us to be very cognizant of this as risk professionals ourselves. And therefore, I would request all of the people to definitely invest a substantial portion of their time to be up to speed with this and at least understand where their roles, kind of cross connect, right? Having said this, last set of thoughts, Daman. Thank you again for your patience. I think we loved every one of these 8 sessions. I'm sure Daman with Daman is is an expert even in these sessions in any case. But both of us are available for any support that is needed in terms of your careers. Whether it is moving to a new risk area, or whether it is about consolidating your position within your current risk area, or whether it is about finding your true organizational fit compared to what it is that you would want to have, right? So the fit has to be between your aspirations, your capabilities, and the best organization that you might want to work for, right? Just like how organizations want to look for the best candidate, I think even the candidates have to find a way to identify the best organization. And both of us will be able to evaluate both sides of the coin because we have worked very closely with organizations and we're obviously professionals ourselves. So feel free to knock on our doors at any point in time, and we'd be very happy to, assist. I think that's what I had. Anything else, Daman? Back to you, and we.
Thank you very much, Anand, and thank you very much, everyone, especially Mohan and Krishnan. And as we draw curtains to this 8-part series, Yin and Yang of Risk and Resilience, your host, Anand, and I say thanks again and have a great day, great time ahead. Hope to see you soon again. Bye bye.